Greetings, fellow detectives. Wizard Kitten here, bringing you another Nancy Drew-inspired speed build in The Sims 4. This time I am doing a build inspired by the 14th mystery in the Nancy Drew series, Nancy Drew Danger by Design. I had a couple different spaces to choose from when I was trying to figure out, because I'm trying to do a build for each Nancy Drew game, at least one build per game. So I had a couple different choices for Danger by Design. I didn't want to do the Moulin because the point of the Moulin in the game is that it is round, and we can't do round walls in The Sims. I couldn't make a circular building, and that's really the point of the Moulin, so I didn't want to do that if I couldn't do it justice. I didn't want to do Dieter's apartment because we only see one room of it, and really there's no other places or furniture. There's no idea of the floor plan or what the outside of the building looks like. Similar issue with JJ Ling's apartment. I thought about doing JJ Ling's apartment, but I've already done a couple of those in the past, and I thought about doing the Cafe Kiki, but I've also done a couple of restaurants and other like cafe type spaces in the past inspired by the games. What I haven't done, though, is a park. So I decided to do the Square du Vert Galant Park. Apologies in advance for me probably butchering the French pronunciations of things. I'm probably saying them very incorrectly. Apologies for that. But I haven't done a park yet for the Sims 4 builds that are inspired by the Nancy Drew games. And so I figured it'd be kind of fun to do just a little fun little park community lot. Honestly, this part here is probably what took me the longest time, which was figuring out how on earth to do the cross of Lorraine that sits at the front of the park. So I'm basically kind of using cheats, the move object cheats, and sizing up and sizing down things, and trying to piece together tombstones and temple pieces from the Jungle Adventure pack, and trying to make it look as close to the cross as I can get. I do eventually get something that I end up being pretty happy with, but this definitely took me a while. This was probably the most difficult part of the build. It's definitely a smaller build as well, so this will be a quicker video, but it was really fun, and I love the idea of maybe eventually putting all of these Nancy Drew builds into one save file. And we don't have any outdoor locations yet, or I haven't made any outdoor locations yet, so I love the idea of potentially having this as like a little park that your Sims can go to. I gave it traits that like make it romantic, make it really sunny and happy, make it more good for creative Sims, so that you can use the art easel that I end up putting down. Because when we play this game in Danger by Design, when we come to this location, we can do painting here. We can make reproductions of famous artworks, including the Mona Lisa. So I wanted to make sure to include everything that this location has in the games. I tried to include everything that I possibly could, and I also put my own spin on it a little bit as well. So some of the things are a little bit different, just because I wanted the lot to be more functional. I wanted your Sims to have more to do here than just sit, because if I did it only just like as it is in Danger by Design, you would basically only be able to buy things, you would be able to sit, and you would be able to paint, provided that there isn't another Sim using the easel at that particular time. So I still include all of those activities. There's tons of benches, plenty of seating. I still have lots of market tables, so you can purchase things, or your Sim can come here and they can sell their wares, which I think is super fun and something that I would really enjoy doing. Your Sims can still paint, but then I add in a couple other little activities. It's funny too, because the park requirement, like community lot for parks, has a lot, and I actually just switch it over to the park requirement. But there are a lot of things that you have to have in The Sims to make it a functioning park lot. And I do end up including all of those things. I'm not positive that all of them are functional, particularly the bathroom situation, but there's usually a public bathroom within the neighborhood anyway. I did build this in Magnolia Promenade, and it's actually just right down the road from Maddie Jensen's apartment, which I did a little while ago as well. All of my Sims 4 builds are in a playlist on the channel. So if you want to see all of the builds that I've done so far, you can definitely check out that playlist. I've done, I think this is my 11th build, maybe my 12th. I think it's like my 11th or my 12th build, which would mean that I'm like a third of the way through most of the games, which is really fun. The more that I do these, the more I get into a zone of what should I include from the game and what should I modify a little bit based on the restrictions of The Sims 4, because it's a very powerful game and we can do quite a bit with The Sims 4, but we can't do everything. So one of the changes that you probably noticed is that I added a food stall. This is the Moroccan food stall, so all of the foods in it are Moroccan inspired. And I just thought it got the shape of the vendor who usually sits in this location. I got it the shape of her like little tent. Plus it gives a little bit more functionality to this lot. So your Sims could grab a bite to eat here, they could grab a snack, grab some lunch, all of that. Community lots, I think it's important that they have a lot of functionality to them, and I think that's what makes them really successful, is when that there's a lot of things that your Sims can do there. I had fun too picking out the landscaping for this lot and trying to match it as close to the game as I possibly could. I had fun picking out the artwork because that's actually a big part of what Nancy needs to come to this space to do. She needs to come to this space to fiddle around with the artwork and really learn more about the history of Noisette Tornade. One of the characters, or one of the historical characters that Nancy follows in this game. And she does have to come to this lot quite a bit to do some shopping for Minette and for Heather. She has to come, like, get a stuffed parrot here. She has to come get items that will help Minette get inspired for her new line. So Nancy comes here quite a bit, and it actually ends up being a pretty central location for the game. Danger by Design is interesting because it's kind of split up into two different parts. We have the modern day mystery, the modern day reason why Nancy is here, and that really is the entire focus of the first half of the game. And then Nancy starts to find clues relating to this kind of historical subplot regarding Noisette Tornade, as I mentioned before. And then that really takes over for the majority of the rest of the mystery. And then at the very, very end, the mystery of why Nancy was there in the first place gets solved. So it kind of does a pull and push kind of thing. It goes back and forth very quickly. But regardless of that, this location ends up being important regardless of which story that you are focusing on at different points in the game. So it was fun to kind of make it come to life a little bit. I did realize too afterwards that the actual park in the game is more triangular shaped, and I keep it as a rectangle. One, because that gives us more space. Two, because I think that utilizes the lot better. And three, because doing it a triangular way with still rounded edges would have been really hard, and I liked how these patches in the middle looked. Like the green grass areas, I think look very similar to how they do in the game, so I didn't want to mess with those too much. So again, taking a little bit of creative liberties to make it look better in The Sims while still trying to maintain the original feel of the original game. Danger by Design, sorry if you guys can hear the outside sounds, by the way. I have the window open right now because the weather today is beautiful. It's like 70 degrees out, which is crazy for a summer day. But anyway, this is a game that I generally enjoy. I think it's just kind of one of the more light, fun games. There are some issues that I definitely have, like with the plot cohesiveness. Like the whole story and how it all fits together, and some of the characters, like I just didn't connect with nearly as much as I would have liked to. But you know, it has, I think the locations are what are most successful in this game. And so bringing one of those to life as best as I could was very rewarding, because I think it's something that this game really succeeds in. I thought this fountain was really nice. I was looking for something that had 3 levels because that's exactly what this art piece has in the game. It's 3 different mouths, and Nancy needs to kind of fiddle with them to get them in a particular configuration. So I really wanted something with 3 different levels, and I thought that fountain got the idea across quite well. I had fun too, kind of putting out the different vendor tables as well. I wanted them all to be different. So I only end up having the 2, and then I have like the food vendor station as well, which I think still gets the idea across and again gives us a little bit more to do at this particular lot. There are so many cool things that we can make and then sell at the tables in The Sims, and honestly, it's kind of an easier way to make money than having a store. We had the store function in The Sims 4 Get to Work, and I hardly ever use that, but I use the vending tables quite a bit, like things that my Sims have crafted, and then I'll go sell it on the vending table. It's just, I don't know, it's faster. You don't have to spend money on a whole shop. I end up using it quite a bit more. And then I was super happy to find this art piece as well, because the art piece in the game that is in that location where the circular sculpture is has a color wheel on it that Nancy has to manipulate. So again, I wanted something that got that same idea across. I wanted something round, and I found this perfect little statue. Every time I'm pausing, I'm looking through the playthrough that I've done for this game to help me find good images that help me kind of see different parts of the area. Like when I have to do bigger builds, it can take me a long time to kind of stop and go through and get good pictures of the entire place, especially since we see the entirety of this location. There are some parts in the game, like Maddie Jensen's apartment, for example, where we literally only see 2 rooms. So the rest of the build was kind of up to my imagination. But this build, in contrast, we see the whole thing. So I did my very best to try and get the idea across for the whole thing. I looked at every single screenshot. When I was doing the landscaping, I noticed that they had a lot of really beautiful orangey type bushes and kind of ferns sitting around amongst the trees. So I go with a lot of these orange flowers. I go with a lot of bushes. The landscaping is very lush. Like this whole area is going to be lined with flowers and bushes. So I think in the spring and summer months, if you have seasons, it'll be nice and bright. And then in the fall months, it'll actually kind of have more of the color scheme that Nancy sees in the game. Because if you're walking around, you can see that some of the shrubs are a little bit more like browny, a little bit more orangey. So yeah, this was definitely a fun little build. It's nice to have these kind of like little light spaces every once in a while. Some of the builds I'm going to end up doing are going to be very, very dark and very scary. But this is just like a pleasant little park. And I was building it, I didn't even realize too, I was building it during sunrise, I think, or sunset. I might be building it during sunset, but I didn't even care because I just loved how warm and inviting it looked. I would totally come to a park like this and like bring a book, grab a little snack from the Moroccan food stand, have a lunch, sit down on the bench, pull a Dieter and leave important information behind on one of the benches, you know, normal things like that. And this game has so many benches, the park does, in the game. Like, I didn't even realize it because Nancy doesn't sit on the benches in the game. The only person who does is Dieter. But when you walk around, or when you look at the pictures, there are so many benches. So your Sims literally have the choice of... They have tons of choice. They can sit wherever they want in this whole little park, enjoy the fish fountain, which actually was perfect. That fish fountain is very similar to the one that's actually in Danger by Design. There isn't a secret passageway under it, but I do end up putting a grate under it at the very end, so it at least looks like you could get down there, and there's a room down there, but it's not accessible. Nancy can't get in it, because I couldn't make it go anywhere, really. Like, that would have been... It wouldn't have gone anywhere. It would just be the basement level. So yeah, just working on the landscaping here, putting in lots of plants, lots of ferns, which will again become kind of nice and orangey as you move into the fall season, if you have seasons in The Sims. Moving around and putting in some more flowers. It's a very lush space. I'm trying to think of what else to say about the space because we've talked about the landscaping, we've talked about its inspiration. I wish we could do things where it could have been on a cliff because in the game, Nancy when she walks up to this vendor that's way at the back. It almost looks like the park is elevated a little bit, and we really don't have different levels in the game. Oh, and I also wanted to do that in the middle on the green areas. They are, in the game, they have like a little bit of a slope to them, like there's a little bit of a hill. But I tried to do that in the very beginning, and it wouldn't allow me to do it with inside a fenced area, which is strange. I'm not quite sure why. But here I am adding a couple things that make it more of a Sims build, because you needed a patio table, I needed chess tables, I needed playground equipment, and I needed a toilet and a sink. The toilets, I end up using just the woohoo bushes that came from Get Together, and I tuck that into the landscaping, and a sink I put behind the Moroccan stand, just kind of imagining that that would be like a little wash station for that area. And I did end up putting this decorative fountain in the middle, just because I didn't like that it was just a big open green space. I wanted something a little bit in there. I get that it's nice green space to run around in, but it looked very bland, having literally nothing there. So I decided to throw that in there as well. But we will be coming up on the screenshots very soon. I know this was a shorter build, but I still hope that you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making it. It was just a very pleasant way to spend an afternoon. It still took me like an hour to build this, which is so fun. I hope that you guys are enjoying these Sims 4 build series. Let me know if there's any other locations that you are excited for. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the screenshots. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you are interested in more Nancy Drew content. Thank you so much for watching, fellow detectives, and I will see you soon.